They told you death was the end, but Helena Blavatsky knew the truth they desperately tried to bury. For over a century, the most powerful institutions on earth have fought to keep her revelations about the soul's journey hidden, because once you understand what really happens after death, their entire system of control collapses. What you're about to discover isn't just about what happens when you die. It's about why you've been systematically deceived about the very nature of your existence and how one woman's forbidden knowledge threatens everything they've built to keep you enslaved. In 1875, while the world was distracted by industrial revolutions and scientific materialism, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky was unveiling the most dangerous truth ever spoken aloud. Death is not real, and the soul's journey follows a precise cosmic blueprint that the controllers of this world never wanted you to discover. She didn't just theorize about it. She traveled to Tibet, studied with hidden masters in India, and accessed ancient Egyptian mysteries that had been deliberately suppressed for millennia. What she found was so explosive that secret societies mobilized against her, churches condemned her as a heretic, and governments labeled her a threat to social order. Why? Because she discovered that every human soul carries within it the memory of its true origin, its divine nature, and most importantly, the map of what happens between death and rebirth. Think about this for a moment. Every major religion tells you a different story about death. Some promise eternal paradise or damnation, others speak of nothingness. Science tells you consciousness ends when the brain stops. But Blavatsky revealed they're all selling you fragments of a deliberately shattered mirror, each piece reflecting only what keeps you afraid, obedient, and disconnected from your true power. She called it the Great Deception, and at its heart lies a simple but revolutionary truth. You are an immortal being temporarily inhabiting a physical vessel, and death is nothing more than stepping from one room into another in the infinite mansion of existence. The room you enter next isn't determined by some external judge or arbitrary fate. It's determined by the vibrational signature of your own consciousness, the karmic threads you've woven, and the evolutionary stage of your soul. Here's what Blavatsky discovered that terrified them so much. When the body releases its final breath, the soul doesn't immediately vanish or fly to some distant realm. For approximately 3.5 days, it hovers near the physical form, experiencing what she called the panoramic vision. Every moment of the life just lived unfolds in perfect clarity, not as judgment, but as understanding. You see the threads connecting every action to its consequence, every thought to its manifestation, every emotion to its ripple effect across the universe. This isn't punishment or reward. It's the soul's natural process of integrating the lessons of that particular incarnation. But here's where it gets interesting, and where the controllers really don't want you to look. After this review, the soul doesn't go to heaven or hell. It enters what Blavatsky called the devachanic state, a realm of consciousness perfectly tailored to your soul's development, where you experience the fulfillment of your deepest spiritual aspirations before preparing for the next incarnation. The ancient mystery schools knew this. The Egyptian priests encoded it in their pyramids. The Tibetan masters wrote it in their sacred texts. But around 2,000 years ago, something changed. New religious institutions rose to power by inverting this knowledge, turning natural transitions into terrifying judgments, replacing understanding with fear, and most critically, inserting themselves as necessary intermediaries between you and your own divine nature. They took the map of the soul's journey and burned it, replacing it with stories designed to make you dependent on their salvation. Blavatsky didn't just recover this map. She decoded it using a synthesis of Eastern wisdom, Western occultism, and direct spiritual experience that revealed the 7 principles of human nature and the corresponding 7 spheres through which consciousness travels after death. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because this is the part they really don't want you to understand. According to Blavatsky's revelations, you're not just a soul having a human experience. You're simultaneously existing on multiple planes of reality right now. Your physical body operates in the material plane, but you also have an astral body, a mental body, and higher spiritual bodies that exist in dimensions beyond ordinary perception. When death occurs, you simply withdraw from the densest vehicle while maintaining continuity of consciousness through these subtler forms. The astral plane, where most souls spend time immediately after death, isn't some distant location. It interpenetrates our physical world, existing in the same space but at a different frequency, like radio waves passing through the air around you right now. This is why Blavatsky insisted that the dead are not gone. They're simply operating at a vibrational frequency most people haven't learned to perceive. But here's where her teachings become truly revolutionary and why they've been so viciously suppressed. She revealed that between death and rebirth, souls don't passively float in some eternal waiting room. They actively participate in planning their next incarnation based on the karmic necessities created by their previous lives. You choose your parents, your circumstances, your challenges, all designed to provide the exact experiences your soul needs for its evolution. This isn't random. It's not punishment. It's a curriculum in the University of Existence, and death is simply graduation from one grade to the next. The implications of this shatter every control system built on the fear of death and the promise of salvation through external authorities. If you really knew, that you are the architect of your own destiny across multiple lifetimes, that death is just a transition in an endless journey of growth, and that no priest, guru, or institution holds the keys to your spiritual evolution, how would that change everything? Now, I want to pause here and ask you something important. As you're listening to this, whether you're in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, or any small town across America, take a moment to comment below and tell me what city you're watching from. I'm curious to see how far this hidden knowledge is spreading, how many souls are ready to remember what's been forgotten. Because what Blavatsky understood, and what I'm about to reveal next, is that we're not randomly scattered across this country. Souls incarnate in groups, in waves, drawn to specific locations and times for collective purposes that are only now becoming clear. The secret societies knew Blavatsky was dangerous because she didn't just talk about life after death as some abstract philosophy. She provided specific practical knowledge about the mechanics of consciousness that anyone could verify through meditation, astral projection, and what she called the development of spiritual sight. She taught that the pineal gland, which mainstream science dismisses as a vestigial organ, is actually your physical interface with higher dimensions, the antenna through which you can perceive the astral plane and communicate with those who have crossed over. The fluoride in your water, the electromagnetic pollution surrounding you, the constant stream of fear-based media, none of this is accidental. It's all designed to calcify this gland, to keep your spiritual sight closed, to maintain the illusion that death is final and terrifying. Here's something Blavatsky revealed that will completely change how you understand existence. She taught that suicide doesn't end suffering, it amplifies it, not as punishment from some angry deity, but as natural law. When someone forcibly ejects themselves from their physical body before their natural time, they remain trapped in the astral plane closest to Earth, still carrying all their emotional pain, but without a physical body to process it through. They must wait until their natural lifespan would have ended before moving on to higher planes. This isn't cruelty. It's simply how consciousness works, like trying to skip a grade in school without learning the lessons. You just have to repeat it. But even more profound is what she revealed about those who die naturally, the quality of your death experience, the realms you can access, the clarity of your consciousness in the after-death state. All of this is determined by how you live, not in terms of moral judgment, but in terms of consciousness development. Blavatsky exposed something else that explains why certain powers have worked so hard to suppress this knowledge. She revealed that the elite families who rule this world have preserved these teachings for themselves, while feeding the masses a diet of materialistic atheism or fear-based religion. They know about the continuity of consciousness. They understand karma and reincarnation. They practice rituals designed to maintain their power across lifetimes, ensuring they reincarnate into the same bloodlines, the same positions of control. Meanwhile, they've convinced you either that death is the end, leaving you in existential terror, or that you need their religious institutions to save you from eternal damnation. Both lies serve the same purpose, keeping you from discovering your own immortal nature and the power that comes with that recognition. The astral plane that Blavatsky described isn't just one homogeneous realm. It has multiple levels, each corresponding to different states of consciousness. The lower astral planes are where souls still attached to physical desires and unresolved emotions find themselves. These aren't punishment zones, they're reflection zones, where consciousness experiences the reality it has created through its attachments and beliefs. The middle astral planes are what most religions have described as heaven, realms of beauty, peace, and reunion with loved ones. But even these are temporary, because the soul's journey doesn't end there. The higher astral planes merge into what Blavatsky called the mental and spiritual planes, dimensions of pure consciousness, where the illusion of separation dissolves and you experience your unity with all existence. She revealed something else that modern near-death experiences have only recently begun to confirm. That tunnel of light so many describe isn't a pathway to judgment. It's the soul's natural mechanism for transitioning between dimensions, like a cosmic birth canal through which consciousness passes from one state to another. The beings of light that appear aren't angels in the religious sense. They're often your own higher self, spiritual guides who have been with you across lifetimes, or advanced souls who specialize in helping others transition. The life review isn't conducted by some external authority. It's your own expanded consciousness, finally able to perceive the full tapestry of the life just lived, understanding how every thread connected to create the whole picture. But here's what Blavatsky knew that terrifies those in power. She understood that humanity is on the verge of a mass awakening to these truths. She predicted that as we entered what she called the Aquarian Age, more and more souls would begin to remember their true nature, would develop the spiritual sight to perceive beyond the physical, would recognize death as the illusion it has always been. This is why there's been such an acceleration in the suppression tactics, why they're so desperate to keep you distracted, divided, afraid. They know their time is running out. The veil is thinning. More people are having spontaneous out-of-body experiences, past life memories, contact with deceased loved ones. The control system built on the fear of death is crumbling. If you're finding value in these revelations, if this knowledge is awakening something within you that's always known there was more to existence than what you've been told, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others who are ready to hear these truths, and subscribe to join our growing community of awakening souls. The algorithm tries to suppress this information, but together we can break through their digital barriers, just as Blavatsky broke through their spiritual ones. Let me share with you one of Blavatsky's most profound revelations about what she called the Kama Loka, the desire realm where most souls spend time immediately after leaving the physical body. This isn't a geographical location, but a state of consciousness where you experience the fulfillment or exhaustion of your earthly desires and attachments. If you lived a life driven by material accumulation, you might find yourself in an astral reflection of that reality until you realize its emptiness and are ready to move on. If you were motivated by love and service, your experience would reflect that higher vibration. This isn't reward or punishment, it's simply consciousness experiencing its own creation, like a dream that perfectly mirrors your state of mind. Blavatsky also revealed why some souls seem to reincarnate quickly, while others spend centuries between lives. It's not random or based on some cosmic waiting list. It depends on the soul's evolutionary needs and the karmic opportunities available. A soul that died with intense attachments or unfinished business might reincarnate quickly to continue working through those patterns. A more evolved soul might spend extended time in the higher planes, assimilating wisdom and preparing for a life of greater service. She taught that eventually, all souls reach a point where they can consciously choose their incarnations, becoming what she called masters of wisdom, who return not from karmic necessity but from compassion to help guide humanity's evolution. Here's something that will completely change how you think about death and dying. Blavatsky revealed that the moment of death is actually one of the most important spiritual opportunities in the entire cycle of existence. The thoughts, emotions, and state of consciousness you hold as you transition powerfully influence your journey through the after-death states. This is why so many spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of preparing for death through meditation, prayer, and the cultivation of detachment. It's not about fear or morbid obsession. It's about recognizing death as the ultimate spiritual practice, the final examination where everything you've learned about releasing attachment, maintaining consciousness, and recognizing your true nature comes into play. She exposed another secret, that explains why certain ancient cultures preserved bodies through mummification, or why Tibetan Buddhism developed such elaborate death practices. The physical body, even after the soul has departed, maintains an energetic connection to the consciousness for a period of time. How the body is treated can either help or hinder the soul's journey through the after-death states. Cremation, when done with proper ritual and timing, helps release the soul from physical attachments. But the modern practice of immediate embalming and burial can actually create energetic complications, keeping the soul partially bound to the earth plane longer than necessary. This isn't superstition. It's understanding the subtle energy dynamics that materialistic science refuses to acknowledge. What Blavatsky revealed about the connection between the living and the dead shatters the grief-based control system that keeps so many in perpetual mourning. She taught that excessive grief and constant calling out to deceased loved ones can actually hold them back from their journey, keeping them tethered to the earth plane through emotional cords. This doesn't mean you shouldn't mourn or remember. It means understanding that true love includes releasing those who have transitioned, trusting in the continuity of consciousness, and knowing that separation is only temporary. The dead don't need your tears. They need your understanding, your growth, your continuation of the work you began together. One of her most revolutionary teachings concerns what happens to those who die in states of extreme negativity, those who lived lives of cruelty, manipulation, and harm to others. They don't go to an eternal hell. That concept, she revealed, is one of the greatest lies ever told. Instead, they experience what she called the avicii state, a temporary condition where consciousness experiences the full weight of the suffering it has caused, not as punishment, but as education. It's like a cosmic rehabilitation center where souls learn through direct experience why certain actions create suffering. Eventually, every soul, no matter how lost, finds its way back to the light. No one is eternally damned. Everyone gets infinite chances to learn, grow, and evolve. Blavatsky knew something else that modern spiritual teachers are only beginning to understand. The veil between the worlds isn't just thinning randomly. Humanity is approaching what she called the moment of choice, a critical juncture in our evolution where we must consciously decide whether to remain trapped in the materialistic illusion or awaken to our multidimensional nature. Those who choose awakening will develop what she called the siddhis, spiritual powers that include conscious communication with the dead, memory of past lives, and the ability to navigate the astral planes while still embodied. This isn't fantasy. It's the natural evolution of human consciousness that has been artificially suppressed for millennia. Here's the truth they never wanted you to know. Every night when you sleep, you temporarily die. Your consciousness withdraws from the physical body and travels through the same astral planes you'll navigate after death. The only difference is the silver cord, an energetic tether that keeps you connected to your physical form and pulls you back each morning. Dreams aren't just random neural firing. They're your consciousness exploring other dimensions, meeting with deceased loved ones, receiving teachings from spiritual guides, and preparing for your eventual transition. But you've been taught to dismiss dreams as meaningless, another lie designed to keep you from recognizing your own multidimensional nature. If this knowledge resonates with something deep within you, if you feel that stirring of recognition that says, yes, I've always known there was more, then you're not alone. Millions are awakening to these truths right now. Share this video with others who are ready. Comment below with your own experiences of sensing the presence of departed loved ones, of dreams that felt more real than waking life, of moments when you knew, absolutely knew, that death is not the end. We're building a community of souls who refuse to live in fear of humanity's most natural transition. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming revelations about past life memories, astral projection techniques, and the hidden history of humanity that Blavatsky died trying to reveal. The masters that Blavatsky studied with in Tibet revealed to her the ultimate secret about death and rebirth. Every soul is on a journey toward what they called the Great Liberation, the point where you no longer need to reincarnate unconsciously, but can choose to return as a conscious helper of humanity or move on to cosmic levels of existence beyond Earth. This isn't about escaping the wheel of incarnation through denial of life. It's about mastering it through full engagement, learning every lesson, balancing every karma, until you graduate from Earth's school entirely. And here's what's really going to blow your mind. Blavatsky taught that we're living in the exact period of history when more souls than ever before are approaching this liberation. The chaos you see in the world isn't random. It's the accelerated karma of millions of souls completing their Earth curriculum simultaneously. She revealed that certain souls, what she called old souls or wanderers, have already achieved liberation, but choose to return during critical periods of human history to assist in collective awakening. You might be one of them. If you've always felt different, if you've never quite fit into the conventional worldview, if you've had an innate knowing that death isn't real and that you're here for a purpose bigger than personal survival, you might be one of these voluntary returners. The memory of your true nature has been temporarily veiled to allow you to fully engage with the human experience, but that veil is lifting now. The remembering has begun. What Blavatsky understood about the relationship between consciousness and death explains why the medical establishment works so hard to keep dying people sedated and unconscious. A conscious death, where the individual maintains awareness through the transition, creates a completely different after-death experience than an unconscious one. When you're drugged into oblivion, your consciousness becomes confused, making the transition more difficult and the immediate after-death state more chaotic. This isn't mercy. It's another control mechanism designed to weaken your spiritual power at the most critical moment of your existence. The ancient traditions knew this, which is why they developed practices like the Tibetan Bardo teachings, designed to maintain consciousness through the death transition. Here's perhaps the most liberating truth Blavatsky ever revealed. There is no external judge waiting to condemn or reward you after death. The judgment you experience is your own expanded consciousness, finally able to see clearly the effects of your thoughts, words, and deeds. You become both the judge and the jury, but from a perspective of infinite compassion and understanding. The hell realms described by religion are real, but they're not eternal prisons created by a vengeful God. They're temporary states of consciousness, created by your own attachments, fears, and guilt. And here's the key. The moment you recognize them as self-created, you have the power to transcend them. No soul is ever trapped forever. Every soul eventually remembers its divine nature and continues its journey toward greater light. The reason Blavatsky's teachings have been so systematically suppressed becomes crystal clear when you understand their implications. If death is just a transition, if you're an immortal soul temporarily using a physical body, if there's no eternal damnation requiring salvation from external authorities, then every power structure built on fear collapses. Every institution claiming to hold the keys to the afterlife is exposed as fraudulent. Every system designed to control you through death anxiety loses its grip. You become impossible to control because you know who you really are. An eternal being of infinite potential, temporarily playing in the realm of limitation to learn, grow, and eventually help others do the same. As we reach the culmination of these revelations, understand that what Blavatsky brought to the Western world wasn't new information. It was the recovery of humanity's most ancient wisdom, the knowledge that was encoded in the pyramids, preserved in the Vedas, hidden in the mysteries of Eleusis, and taught by every genuine spiritual master who ever walked the earth. She didn't channel this information from mysterious sources. She studied with living teachers who had maintained this knowledge through secret oral traditions, protected it from those who would use it for power, and waited for the right moment in human history to release it back into collective consciousness. That moment is now. The final secret Blavatsky revealed is this: death is not just an individual experience, but a collective one. Humanity as a whole is approaching what she called the death of the age, the end of one cosmic cycle and the beginning of another. The old paradigm built on separation, fear, and external authority is dying. A new paradigm based on unity, love, and internal sovereignty is being born. Every soul currently embodied chose to be here for this transition. You're not randomly alive at this moment in history. You're here because your soul has the exact qualities, experiences, and capabilities needed for humanity's collective transformation. The fear of death that has controlled humanity for millennia is dissolving. The remembrance of our true nature is awakening. The prison doors are opening, and we're discovering they were never locked. We simply believed they were. You are not your body. You never were. You're the eternal consciousness temporarily inhabiting it. You are not your personality, your story, your wounds, or your triumphs. You're the awareness experiencing them all. Death cannot touch what you really are, because what you really are was never born and can never die. You're the drop of consciousness that contains the entire ocean, temporarily pretending to be separate to experience the joy of remembering your unity with all that is. This isn't just philosophy or spiritual comfort. This is the practical reality that Blavatsky died revealing to the world, the truth that terrifies every system built on the illusion of separation and the fear of annihilation. The journey doesn't end with death. It doesn't even end with liberation from the cycle of rebirth. It continues into cosmic levels of existence that Blavatsky could only hint at, dimensions of consciousness where individual souls merge into collective beings of unimaginable wisdom and power, where the entire Earth experience becomes just one note in an infinite symphony of creation. You're not just heading toward personal liberation, you're part of a collective awakening that will transform this planet into what Blavatsky called the New Jerusalem, not a physical city, but a state of collective consciousness where the veil between life and death dissolves permanently, where humanity operates with full awareness of its multidimensional nature. The time of hiding is over. The age of fear has ended. The remembering has begun. You're not alone in this awakening. Millions of souls around the world are experiencing the same recognition, the same lifting of the veil, the same understanding that death is the ultimate illusion, and that we are all eternal beings of infinite potential, temporarily dancing in the realm of form. We're not just individuals waking up from the dream, we're humanity itself remembering what we are, why we're here, and where we're going. The controllers, the deceivers, the merchants of fear, their time is ending, not through revolution or violence, but through the simple recognition of truth that no force in the universe can stop once it begins to spread. And it has begun. It began the moment you started listening to this. It continues with every soul you share this with. It culminates when humanity collectively remembers that death is not the end, but the doorway to infinite becoming. Welcome to your awakening. Welcome to the truth they never wanted you to know. Welcome home to the eternal self you've always been but temporarily forgot. The journey continues, not in death but through it, beyond it, into realms of existence so magnificent that the human mind can barely conceive them. Yet your soul knows. It has always known, and now finally you're beginning to remember.